Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Athletic School podcast. Today, our guest speaker, Donald Suxho, a former U.S. Olympic team player. Donald has an extraordinary story as a USC standout. He set records and earned two-time All-American and AVCA National Player of the Year. Beyond playing, he coached at USC and later took on the role of a director of volleyball at IMG Academy in 2022. Donald, thanks so much for joining me.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Well, like I said, it's an awesome story. Leaving our country, coming to the U.S. For me and for a lot of people that are listening to this, we are international students that we left our countries trying to play the sport that we like. So I heard about the story that you went to Greece when you were in Albania before I went to Greece to play. Um, and so tell me a little bit about that story.
Yeah, glad to be here, with you as an international student. I know it's not easy to leave home country and go to a completely different, massive place like US, which is the most hyper competitive place in the world, right, for sports, business, and life. So kudos to you and the crowd, for coming here and trying for your dream. For me, I grew up in Albania and it was communism, so we didn't have any dreams. Growing up, we just loved sports. The best thing about us was loving sports, playing all different kind of sports. And then in '91, the communism fell down, and all of a sudden, the world opened up to us, right? And we realized that we were in a tiny, tiny little pocket of the world, and then, things could get better, with sports and travel. So, unfortunately for us, at the beginning of my life, we didn't have visas or money to travel around the world. So, the next country next to me was Greece, and then we decided to walk for about 15 to 20 hours, which was pretty crazy at age 15 to try and play volleyball, for a better life. And we made it on the other side. It was a very scary walk. We're getting chased by soldiers, getting shot. Back then in '95, I don't think you were born, Igor, but there was no GPS. There was no, navigation or Wi-Fi. So it was one guy with a light who somehow knew the road. So made it to Greece. Played for a weekend at a team in Greece. Unfortunately, I didn't make the team. I was 15 at the time, and then came back home, kind of heartbroken, sad per se. That was like my one ticket, as we believe sometimes. That this is it for us, right? But that was just the start of my journey, and God had bigger plans for me. So I
Mhm.
just came back to Albania and went to work. My goal from young age was to how can I become the best athlete and the best setter in the world for my position, right? So I engaged and invested on all activities possible, from young age till Greece, and then, next thing you know, God brought me to America.
Yeah. And what was that desire about that you had that made you try to go to Greece and in such a dangerous situation? Like, what was going through your mind?
It's volleyball, like there's like, if you like sports, right? If you're an athlete, I say I don't have to motivate you to win, right? I mean, if you play sports, you got to win or lose. There's no tie, right? So that kind of a, ability to win, ability to have a better life, to have better things, And for me, I love volleyball. I mean, I love soccer. Growing up, I played soccer, but then volleyball, I became taller, and my father put me to volleyball, and just the ability to I think for me was I put in a lot of work and see success. I built confidence and I started becoming better than others. I started becoming stronger and faster and winning. And then winning brings you different stuff in life. Could be money, could be medals, could be a school, could be anything, right? So for me, it was a way out of my current situation, but also like just as a human being, you put in the work, you love the sport, and you want to see results, right? So by seeing results, motivated me to do bigger and better things. So that's what kept me up every day and every night in Albania and in Greece.
Hmm. And I mean, we're gonna talk a little bit about the time you came to the US and a little bit about the differences, but I feel like nowadays we have a lot of athletes that they don't go through the same things you did, like not even close,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So how what do you think do you think without that desire you had it's harder to succeed? Because I feel like a lot of people, if they don't play, they just get down and then they stop playing,
Hmm.
or I don't know, they feel everyone has problems,
Yep.
and I get that.
Yep.
But I mean, when we look at your story and I look at my story and I think, oh my gosh, like
Hmm.
I'm chilling, you know what I mean? Like I don't have
Yeah.
any problems. I'm not being chased by soldiers or anything like that. So
Yeah.
uh, do you think it's harder to succeed if you don't have that desire that you had back then?
I think first of all, Igor, is to you gotta love the sport. You know, if you chose a sport for a wrong reason, that's never gonna work. And I feel like number one problem these days in youth sports, which I don't know if you know, in America, is the highest rate of canceling, or giving up. It's youth sports, right? Because parents put them for the wrong reasons in a sport that they think their son or daughter can become better, right? So they don't allow their kids to grow within their passion. That's number one thing. I think kids are choosing the sports for the wrong reasons because of parents. Number two thing, I think it's sports are becoming very expensive. Youth sports in general, all over the world. I'm sure you're from Brazil, right? I think
Yeah,
I'm from Albania. Even in Albania, to play soccer, it costs money right now. So I think that takes away that passion and drive for kids and parents. Number two thing. Number three thing is kids these days, because of social media and your new generation last 20 years, right, is they seek we know that they seek that they seek that quick fix, right? Like, hey, I'm really good because I posted a highlight video and I got 20,000 likes or followers, right? The NIL and the likes. So there are those kids, there is a rules to exception when there is few kids who are really good, right, and they deserve the whole popularity within NIL or social media, right? But the majority of kids these days look for that quick fix. I want to be a great athlete tomorrow. I want to be an influencer on TikTok and Instagram. And truly, they forget the grind. I mean, truly, they forget the process of, like anything else in life. If you want to learn a subject, if you want to build muscle, if you want to grow up, like healthier, you got to put in the work. And I think now, with the social media and there's so much access to information, these kids feel like they can do it fast, right? So for me, it's a combination of things, right? It's not their fault either, because this new generation is grown up in an internet world and sports have changed. But I think it comes down to number one thing. I think you gotta love what you do. If you love the sport, whatever that's, it could be chess, it could be cheerleading, it doesn't matter. If you love that, then it's gonna work out. If you don't, it's never gonna work out.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, you should work smarter, not harder." And
Mhm.
I mean, I get that to a sense, but at the same time, sometimes you just have to work harder.
Yeah,
So I think you have to learn on when to work smart and when to work hard.
of course,
But
of course, of
in
course.
your case, in sports, sometimes it's just working harder and harder, right?
It's pure work. Look, I mean, smarter meaning, like, you have to listen to your body, right? When you're tired, when you're injured, right? That's smart. But I think there's no substitution to hard work. Zero. I mean, people always ask me, like, what kept you going all this time, or what, I go speak, to high schools or around the world to kids for sports. And I say, I mean, I purely ask the question: who can do 10 push-ups here? Of course, everybody makes fun of me, right? Even the girls, and I can do 20. I'm like, okay, great, but can you do 20 push-ups every morning at 6 a.m. for a year? And they say, well, that's boring. I'm like, exactly. I said, that's the difference between me and you. Like, I was willing to get up at 6 a.m. and do 10 push-ups, and you slept in. So it's very simple, but I think people don't like simple things. They like something complicated, quick fix, protein shake, drug, or I don't know, the latest technology, the latest shoes, right? Like the latest things, insoles, or the latest T-shirts that somehow is going to make you jump higher or run faster. Which
Yeah.
you just got to focus on what matters the most. That's purely hard work, getting better, learning. The ability to take information, learn, and execute, and then that's it. And then just move in.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's something that I always talk about in athletic schools, like how people should read more, like especially people my age, because we are not used to read. And
Mm.
right now, you go on YouTube and you listen to a podcast, and and I get it that it's easier, it's faster, but at the same time, I don't feel like you learn as much.
Yeah.
Uh, that's why I try to make people read a little bit more, spend the time reading, because
Hmm.
you're exercising your mind as well.
Of course.
Um,
Of course.
yeah, unfortunately, I feel like that's across the board nowadays.
Yeah.
Everyone just wants something faster and faster.
100%.
Yeah. And then you came to the US from Albania, and I mean, the cultural difference for me was big, and I still can talk to my family every day. You know, I can
Yeah.
call them, and I feel like back then when you came was probably way harder. So, how was your first impression to the US? How did you get adapted to the environment and everything?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. My first year was very hard. You know, it was we came here and it was snow. We moved to Boston, and as you can imagine, no English, no money, just working. I was working actually, washing dishes and selling Dunkin' Donuts in Boston. You know, for a year. So it was very hard the first year. But what I saw, what I understood right away, and I made a decision in my mind, is, and I think that's many international students lack that, in my opinion, is that I made a conscious decision to acclimate with American culture, American language, American habits, you know, because I thought, okay, I live in America. I gotta understand how these people think, how what they like, how why they speak that way, why they do things that they do, right? Because if I acted Albanian in America, I'd never make it, you know. So I made a very big decision to A, learn the English language really well as I could, and B, just really kind of acclimate to the culture, you know, become, you know, like I never lost my Albanian roots, right? My Albanian language, but I decided to become American pretty fast, and then that opened up a lot of doors, you know, in terms of, you know, making some friends, playing in some tournaments, and just, you know, really what I understood that, you know, it's a tremendous country. For me, it's one of the best countries in the world where people are willing to help you. People are kind, they're compassionate. They will open their arms and help you if you ask, and if you're not lazy. You know, because many immigrants or international students come here and they expect things to be given to them, things to be done for them, because they see, again, social media where people post simply happy pictures, right? And they don't know where this comes from, right? So there's a misconception there. But for me, thank God that back then there's no internet or social media, so we focus on just pure hard work, you know.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's something that I talk to people that wants to come here. People are always asking questions, like, "Oh, do you like it? How it is, and everything?" And like you said, you know, it's great. Um, I think there are opportunities out there that we can do as a lot of things that if I was in Brazil, I wouldn't be able to do it. But when I got here, I went to Kansas in the middle of
Mm.
nowhere. I got there. I didn't have a house to live. Um, the room that they put me in, it was dirty. There's a lot of bugs in the on the floor, you know. And then I was like, oh my gosh, doesn't look like Times Square for me anymore. You know what I mean? So uh,
Yeah.
I think people are a little bit lazy nowadays, and they look at social media, a
Hmm.
YouTuber that is posting videos, and then they forget that, you know, not it's not like a it's not like only a dream, you know. You have to work, you have to go through a few things as well in order
Yeah.
to, you know, to live the American dream, I guess.
Yeah, of course. I mean, everybody's different journey, right? I mean, some people are lucky, you know, that get put in a good situation, right away, but some are not, you know. And for that reason, you got to know where you are, you got to know where you go, and then you got to really have that strong faith because you love the sport and you came here for the right reason. You know, you always have to have that motive of why you play the sport, why you came to America, or why you went to Greece, or why you go to Germany, right? And if you can answer those questions, you can live outside too, right? And make it happen. So.
100%, yeah. And then when does volleyball gets to life again to you when you came to the US? How did you get to college and everything?
Yeah, after 1 year, you know, like I wasn't playing volleyball. I was working, and I just, you know, I love the sport, and I was still working out every day. I was still going to the gym or playing some, you know, pickup games. And then next thing you know, at my church, at the neighborhood, you know, my cousin, you know, kind of the American culture. That, you know, it's like, hey, why are you playing this sport? What do you want to do with that? And I just expressed my, you know, my satisfaction, my passion for the sport, and that people were willing to help, and they just invited me to a high school. They invited me to play some tournaments, and next thing you know, like they say, hey, you should go to college and play volleyball. I said, I don't no idea about where to go, how to go, or what to do, right? Because again, we had limited information back then. So my cousin And my church just we start cold calling every college in America for men's volleyball, and one of their friends was at Harvard University, so he allowed me to play there for a couple of months to train just to stay in shape, and then every college said no except USC. Jim McLaughlin, God bless him, he saw something, he heard something, I don't know. He flew to Boston for a weekend to watch me train and play with the Harvard team, and then he offered me a full scholarship, which A, for me, I didn't know what that meant, and B, was California, which I had no idea where California was. So, but I said, hey, anything to get me out of the, washing dishes and selling Dunkin' Donuts. I mean, it could have been like Eastern Mississippi or North Montana State. I didn't care. I just wanted to play volleyball, go to college, and
Yeah.
not work 24 hours a day. So that's, and then, that came. I did fail SATs twice after that. He gave me the full ride because math was great, but English, I couldn't understand a thing of it. So I decided not to work for 6 to 7 months. I missed the preseason. I missed September to December, and then my last chance was in December. So I barely passed. And January '97, I joined the team, at USC. And when I went there, that's when the real dream started because it was 75 palm trees, and it was a beautiful school, which I had no idea.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
That's and looking at your story, and I mean, we do see a lot of hard work, but how much of talent do you think you had? You had a lot of talent. Was pure hard work? What was that ratio, kind
It was both. I think I think yes, my dad played volleyball. So he was a coach. He was a setter like me. So he taught me from a young age the skills, right? So there was some talent there. I mean, I wasn't head above the shoulders everybody else in the world. Like I had talent. I had athleticism, and athleticism was made, right? Like I worked. I mean, in Albania, we used to run hills and stairs and work out every day of our life. So I became a really good athlete by default, by the kind of the philosophy we had back in Albania, right? You become a great athlete first, then you learn the skill second, and then some talent, and then just that kind of persistence. Honestly, it was that persistence of wanting to be the best, of wanting to grind, and wanting to stay longer, and sooner or later that comes. And then the talent stopped when I went to USC because you are, one of the best schools in America. I didn't know. We got setters in my position, right, from the top club teams in America, who were competing for that spot, and here's a kid from Albania coming in and taking a scholarship away, So, so it wasn't easy, like, eyes over me, but that kind of fueled me to work harder, and to work smarter, right? So.
of? Yeah, 100%. And you broke a lot of records. You set a lot of records when you were there. Um, did you had as a goal like, oh, I
mm,
want to set this record, or something just kind of like happened naturally?
I think volleyball is a team sport, right? So like I wasn't a great team at the beginning, but I realized that I had athletic abilities to be a great teammate. So I was thinking and talking to the coach, like, hey, what can I do as Donald? Like, how can I help the team win? Like, what are the skills? Because aside from setting, right, I can do to win. And my coach like, hey, you're a physical setter, you're fast, you're strong. Just use that to score more points, or block balls, or score aces, or do things that other kids cannot do. So he kind of made me aware of how I could use my physical ability, my talent to help my team win. So I really took that to heart. Because again, when you're an athlete at the most hyper competitive place in the world, like it wakes you up and say, okay, like what can I do to help my team win, so I use those skills, and I also worked on them, like again, nobody is born with skills, right? So I asked my coach, what I gotta do to be a better server, better blocker, or a better setter, so I went to work and I combined those two things, with the guidance of the coach, with the help of my teammates, and just and just really kind of took it to heart, like, hey, this guy can score two aces, why can't I score three, so
Hmm. Awesome. Yeah.
it's just simple as that,
Yeah, I like that, and I like how you went to the coach and asked him, how can I help the team, because a lot of
Mm,
people nowadays, I feel like they just go ask the coach why I'm not playing,
yeah,
which
yeah.
it's understandable to a certain point, but also like, what can you add to the team, like, why
Hmm.
why should the coach play you and not the other guy,
Yeah.
and I mean, I do feel like coaches sometimes lack a little bit of communication, and coaches need to be clear, and I need to hear what is the truth. Don't
Yeah.
tell me that I need to jump higher because I'm a volleyball player. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, tell me
Yeah.
something that is gonna make me make a better volleyball player, and also something that is gonna add to the team. That even if I don't play here, maybe I can go play somewhere else. But I feel like a lot of the players that I talk to, um, sometimes that communication with the coaches just doesn't happen, and if it happens, kind of broken.
Yeah, and it's not, look, it's not easy. Like I wasn't perfect either, right? Like I mean, I don't want to sound like I was a perfect kid or a perfect athlete when I was young age, right? Um, I just, how can I best say this? The problem now also with the athletes and coaches is athletes are super, I don't know, worked out or worked down by parents and by society, right? They're not. For me, the good thing, I think, for me, the good thing that happened, I was alone. Like really, like I was alone with my coaches and my teammates, and I didn't have my parents to try to, or I didn't have my parents to come in and tell the coach, anything. Like I was alone, and somehow like being alone and being in hardship, it really wakes you up, And I feel like now kids, young kids, because they have no ability to express themselves. They have no ability to have a conversation and really, like you said, like ask the coach, like, hey, why am I not playing? But truly ask the question, like, hey, what am I doing wrong? Or how can I help the team? Or what skills do I have that will add value to my team so then I can be a starter or a top 12 or go to Olympics or whatever that is, right? And that's because I think parenthood right now has changed. They're very, very close to the kids. They don't let them suffer enough. They don't let them, you know, feel enough the pain, the loss, or even the joy, right? Like, so I think kids are not alone enough. They're just, either with the parents or either with their phones, right? And it's kind of this umbrella, this fake umbrella of confidence. And when they're alone, then stuff happens, right? That they can control. They don't know how to control it.
Yeah, I love that, and I agree 100%. The other day, I was talking to some friends, and we were talking like how we want to be successful and things like that. But when we have a kid, how we gonna do to not do that to our kids? Because we hope to have enough money, and everything. And like, how can I not protect my kid from everything,
Mm, yeah.
and let him suffer a little bit? So I
Mm,
think that's important. And I mean, I hope the athletes that are listening to this, they kind of like can tell their parents, like, look, let me do
yeah.
it, because
Experience matters. I mean, you only learn by experience, right? If you don't feel it, if experience is everything. Winning, losing, ties, getting cut, injury, whatever that is. Experience matters, and if you don't experience enough, then you're not prepared enough, for the future. So the more experience you have, the better you're gonna be.
for sure, yeah, you can read a book about mindset, and if you don't go out there and practice mindset,
Yeah.
you're not gonna get better, right?
Nope. No
um,
chance. No
yeah.
chance. Yeah.
And I want to dive a little bit deeper on mindset, because you had a injury when you were trying to when you were practicing to go to the Olympics again for the second time, and then you had that injury. And then I heard you saying a little bit about how was your mindset.
Hmm.
But tell me a little bit how what was going through your head, how what made you not give up, kind of thing.
Yeah. So that was my second quad. I was actually in Italy playing the finals in Rome, and it was about 9 months before the Olympics. And then I just heard the pop, and the doctor came. I was never injured in my life. I always took care of my body. I always did everything. So you can imagine, like being in top shape of your life and then having the worst injury. Achilles. So yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like it was a devastating experience at the beginning when I had the surgery. When I was sitting in my bed, like for 5 weeks, with my leg up, and my future was uncertain. Professional future, Olympic future was truly, truly uncertain. And like you have on those moments, you need good people around you. You need good coaches, good people to at least talk to, right? One of the luck I had, like I met this coach of, he was a trainer and he was an ex-Navy SEAL, and he just put it pretty simply to me. It's like, hey, you're allowed to cry for 3 days, but you got to move on and kind of work on yourself, right? And then like before that, my mindset um, with my Achilles was, was like, okay, I took it as a game. I took it as like, who's going to win, Achilles or me? I knew I was going to recover. I knew I was going to get back. It was just a matter of time, right? So I took it as a little game. I said, all right, again, ask my coaches, ask my trainers, okay, what do I have to do? How much? Be smart this time, right? To get back on the court. So they gave me a game plan, and I took the game plan and I multiplied by 10 times. So if I had to stretch once, I would stretch 10 times a day. If I had to ice once, I would ice 10 times a day. So same thing as those 10 push-ups I was doing every morning, as a young kid. I think I took this as a game and not as a defeat, right? First of all, physically and mentally, I just focus on like every other athlete, like, okay, how can I get better each day? It wasn't easy. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I had tough moments. I had moments I punched the wall or I threw the ball because I couldn't get back in shape fast enough. But you gotta have those experiences. You gotta accept them and say, okay, I'm a human being. I got emotions. I'm at the peak of my career. I lost Olympics. I lost everything. Okay, what do I have to do to get back? And prove everybody wrong. And I just, like, another thing that I learned through my experience, again, the USA team, USC, traveling, was as a young athlete, I was taking a lot of energy and effort to compete against others. To compete everybody else, other teams, other coaches, other players. And I learned, like, the best competition is between you and you. Like, how can I be faster? How can I be stronger? How can I be, valuable to my team? And I think once I came to peace with that, I say, nobody can dictate my future but me. When that clicked, when that I really had faith in that, then it took off. Then I was able to really get back, play better. I became again, like, the Olympic setter, and went back to Italy and played at top level again. So I mean, the mindset was one day at a time, one stretch at a time, one ice at a time. And yes, there was negative moments, because I don't want to sound like I'm the most positive guy, or, we're human beings, but you got to have those moments, right? And you got to, I don't know, cry about it, or talk to your parents, or whatever that is that gets you out of it, but get out fast. You can't let those moments linger for a day, week, or month. Otherwise, it's a roller coaster. You can't come back. So for me, I mean, keep it simple and stupid, they say, right? So that's what I did.
Yeah. Um, so I mean, you have a lot of things that happen to your story that there's a story like how there's two brothers, and then their dad was an alcoholic, and one decides to not drink, and the other one becomes an alcoholic, right? And I felt like you had that um, a lot in your life, right? You could have give up back then in Greece, but you decided to keep going. You had all the excuses, you had all the
Hmm.
reasons, if I may
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
uh, to give up back then. You had all the reasons to give up when you got the injuries as well. Um, what what was going through your mind? Like, did you want to go back to prove something to people, to yourself? It was something like, I just want to get better. What were you thinking?
When you take, again, like, I guess, like, when you become confident, when you put in the work and you kind of taste success, right? Like, when you taste, like, they say that, right? When you taste success, when I walked in that opening ceremony in Greece, or when I, went to Greece and saw this, like, nice team that had, like, good conditions, I came to America, I went to USC, and when you taste that success and become confident, you do everything possible, not to lose it, right? It's one thing to make it at top, it's the hardest thing is to stay. I think that's where many people fail, like, hey, I can lose weight, but then they gain it back. Or I can run faster, but okay, can you run faster for a long time? So for me, through trial and error, through hard work, I tasted success and defeat, and success tastes better, right? It's sweeter. And so when you feel that, it just opens up your mind, and it just gives you, like, confidence and passion and energy that it's hard to do, like, so. But you gotta go through that journey again. Like, it's a journey, it's a development. It's not, I became an Olympian overnight, like, I tell people, like, in the business force, like, I didn't become an Olympian working 8 to 5, right? uh, it takes a lot of hours and hard work and, commitment. But I think, like, I go back to experience. I go back to having those experiences, being on top. Just, it's incredible. I mean, it's like high. It's a Mother Nature high. Like, and when you go down, you look up, you're like, all right, well, I know how to get there. This time I want to do it better, smarter, get back there. So yeah, I mean, like, you have that chip on the shoulder, people talk about you. And of course, we are competitive athletes, right? So we want to compete. And people, when I got injured at 32, people are like, he's done, like he's old, he's done, 32. And I said, okay, great. That gave me a little fuel for the fire, right? So that's also nice to get that, those chips, right? Um, but ultimately, like you said, um, it doesn't matter what mindset book you read or how much people talk about you or wrong about you. You still have to get up and do the work. We go back to that immigrant story, right? The international students, like, yeah, you can come to America and go to good college, but when I went to USC, I didn't speak English well. I mean, I was struggling in classes, but I put an effort in, and I finished with 3.7 GPA. Like I put an effort in, and I became the best, like so. You can have all this help, but I think like ultimately it's up to you. You got to make the decision, and if you make the decision, it's great things happen. If you kind of go 50-50 or not full in, then nothing happens, honestly. So for me, that was, a combination of things.
Hmm. Good. I love that. So I mean, I do think your story is inspiring for people like me, for example. But for a lot of people, it's hard to relate in a way because they never went through anything close to what you did.
Yep.
So what would you tell people? What you would tell like young athletes, even some of the
Mm,
ones that you worked with?
yeah.
Uh, how how to inspire them, like
Yeah.
how to make them get out of bed and try to
Uh-huh.
become the best version of themselves, even though they're not being chased by soldiers or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, my friend, is, do you love the sport? I mean, I cannot say that enough. Do you love what you do? Is this the sport that you are passionate about? Like, if you're not, if that doesn't get you off the bed, even God can't, right? So for me, it's like, hey, are you playing the right sport? And if the answer is yes, then the second thing is like, okay, well, there's three parts to that. Like, how can you, right? How can you be better? How fast can you learn? What is the process? Like, where you want to go? We all have different journeys, right? I think having a clear vision and a plan to where you want to go, it's important, right? Like, so it's like, many kids don't have that clear vision and like, and journey. Like, they they say, hey, I want to go to USC. I'm like, well, is this really the right school? Or I want to be a pro NBA player. Okay, but do you truly have the transparent conversation with them? Like, are you truly equipped to be that? I mean, I want to dream big, right? I'm not saying don't dream big, right? But you have to be realistic with those dreams. That, okay, well, let's take it one step at a time. Like, where you are, where you want to go, and how we get there. So having a plan, right? Having realistic expectations, loving the sport, and truly, like, asking for help, because I think many kids quit these days because they're afraid to ask for help. Boys and girls, they feel they are not strong enough mentally. I know mental health is big these days. They feel embarrassed to ask for help to their coaches or parents or friends. And I think asking for help, that's what got me places. I asked for help to other coaches, to other players. Hey, how'd you do this? Talk about working smart. If you know somebody who's good, reach out to them, especially now with social media, and ask a girl or guy, be like, hey, how'd you get there? How'd you learn that skill? What did you do to to earn that scholarship, right? Or that professional or Olympics or whatever your journey is. And I think having a plan and an action plan after that, like action steps. And lastly, I think, like, like, don't focus on winning. I know it sucks. I know, like, don't focus on winning or making the money or earning the scholarship, but hey, how can I get better today? What am I learning today to get better? And then tomorrow and after tomorrow, and let the process drive you. And sooner or later, that end result is going to come, but I think these days kids go to practice for 2 weeks and they don't see anything, then they quit or they get nervous. So, and that kills a desire. So I think the passion, the love for the sport, asking for help, having a realistic plan, having those action steps, the baby steps. That's why babies crawl, walk, run, sprint, right? I mean, God made us for a reason, right? Like, we're not born sprinting, right? We're just born learn how to walk first. So and just having a good community around you, like, really leaning on community, whatever that is, friends, the church, whatever that is, like just lean in community, and be transparent, conversation. I think we're lacking that right now. Those soft skills, social skills. We are too much alone. The kids are too alone right now. So
Yeah.
for me, that's the advice.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100% because I feel like it's good to hear someone that worked so hard and achieved a lot of things, but also talk about the social environment because I feel like a lot of people say, no, I want to work, I need to work harder and I cannot be social or anything like that. But it's good to find not necessarily a balance, but like, go through times that like I have to hang out with my friends a little bit
Mhm.
because it's good for me, but then tomorrow at 5:30 I'm getting up because I have to go work out. You know what
Yep.
I mean?
No, and I gotta have the balance of life. Gotta have the balance of life. Social skill, social, friends. You gotta have your passions. Like you can't just be sports 24/7 because you're gonna get burned out. And I think just experience things. Just don't be afraid to experience things. Wins, losses, travel, challenges. Just the best. The best teacher is experience, good or bad. It's gonna make you that much better. So get out there and experience things.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my last question is a question that I always ask our guest speakers. It's how you define success. I always ask that because everyone has a different um, definition of it, and I just like to hear what how people think, and
Yeah.
like get a little bit of someone, and then from that person and this person to kind of like build my own
Yeah.
definition.
It changes. I guess it's hard to answer because it changes right with age, right? When I was 18 and 20, success was different than, and then in the Olympics, and now at the older age and having kids. But looking back, I know, like, if I have to define it, being more experienced in life right now, success for me is defined like, did I become the best version of myself?
Mhm.
I mean, like, honestly, like, did I become the best athlete possible, the best human being possible? Did I help enough people, through my success? Did I have compassion, kind of a kind heart, and, be a great teammate, So I think becoming the best version of you, whoever you are, I think that's success, And for me, like, I I believe I could have done a little bit more, if I have a different mindset. If I grew up in America and have these tools now, like I could have probably played 5 Olympics. But uh, for me, like, I did everything I could, to become the best version of me. I failed, I made mistakes, but they were not intentional. My heart was pure, right? So for me, like, that's success, like becoming the best version of you, whatever that is.
100%. Yeah. Well, Donald, thanks so much for sharing all of that. Like I said, I think it's inspiring just to hear where you came from and everything. Not only for international students like me, but for Americans or any athletes that are around the world and are trying to get better and trying to achieve their dreams and their goals. So I really appreciate you taking the time to share that with me. So
Thank you for having me. Good luck ahead.
yes.
Take care.